So this channel is for business owners and entrepreneurs, people who you might think should automatically be motivated and disciplined and hustling and always moving toward their goals like an unstoppable train. But since you clicked on this, chances are you're not feeling that way right now. Maybe you feel less like a train and more like a bike with flat tires trying to pedal up a mountain. Worse, maybe you know that you have it in you. It's like you can see the successful version of you in the distance, that awesome, motivated, disciplined, accomplished person. But the work that it'll take to get from current you to awesome you gets to feel like so much or so far or so slow sometimes that you just rather take a nap or doom scroll or both. So if you're ambitious but lazy and you've tried a bunch of things that obviously haven't worked yet, please keep watching. Now let's take the word lazy to begin with. Are you lazy? Be honest, I'm lazy sometimes, and probably so are you. And I don't mean that as judgment. I mean it more like a diagnosis, because laziness is a real thing. It exists. It's not something that you made up in your head. Like, there are a ton of videos where people will kind of tell you that laziness doesn't actually exist and we can kind of blame everything on external factors and not ourselves. They'll say, you're not lazy, it's the system. The odds are stacked against you. You're just being hard on yourself. And yes, sometimes that's true. The system is working against you and big corporations are literally invested in making you more lazy. But if we believe that our laziness is only a problem that society created, and it's therefore out of our hands, then we lose accountability. We give up control. We give up also trying to change it. So that's the first thing to accept. Laziness is an actual problem, and you may have it, like I have it. Accepting that as a diagnosis is actually the beginning of being able to treat it. Now, is it possible to be ambitious and lazy at the same time? Yes, absolutely. It's super common, especially among business owners and entrepreneurs. So what's the first thing we try to do to cure ourselves of laziness? Motivational content, videos about how to be disciplined. And that's such an ironic content rabbit hole to go down. Like, how many hours have I burned watching videos about how to be productive when I should have been doing something more productive? But that's not the real issue. You're probably approaching your laziness like it's a motivation problem. Like, you need more willpower. You need more discipline to get things done. People usually say you need to connect with your why. You need to meditate on your goals every single morning, etc., etc. And all of that can work for some people. But again, if you're still here, it's probably because motivation alone isn't the fix for your kind of laziness, my kind of laziness. We have type 2 laziness. What I mean is, if you had a medical issue and you took the wrong medicine for it, then taking more of the same medicine isn't going to fix it. So if you've already tried to treat your laziness with motivation and it didn't work, then you don't need more motivation. You need to try a different treatment, such as behavior design. Behavior design means that you can thoughtfully change your environment to remove the friction between you and the behaviors that you want, and also, conversely, removing the cues that trigger the behaviors that you don't want. The cues, when we talk about cues are these tiny signals in your environment that then trigger automatic behaviors. For example, most common example, when your phone is right next to your bed and your alarm is on your phone, what's the first thing that you do in the morning? You reach for it, obviously, to turn off your alarm. It's not a discipline thing, it's just circumstance. Your phone is next to your bed, you're going to reach out and touch it. And if you're like most people, holding your phone is your first cue of the day, because then that triggers an automatic response. You're holding your phone, and so you start doing phone things. You check your notifications, open social media, start scrolling. It's basically muscle memory. Your thumb already knows the way and you can do it half asleep. And then 20 minutes later, you're watching your 100th short video feeling like lazy garbage. So again, that's not necessarily a discipline problem. That's a behavior design problem. And also the first opportunity to make a change. It's honestly pretty easy. If you can identify the cue, you can simply interrupt the pattern. You don't need more willpower or more discipline. You just need to curate the cues in your environment. Because your brain is lazy. That is not an insult. It is neuroscience. Cognitive economics. Your brain actually attempts to conserve energy by defaulting to the easiest available option. It's like when you see the escalator next to the stairs. Without thinking about it, you're just naturally going to gravitate toward that escalator. But if the escalator is broken, then the stairs don't look as bad. So what's this tell us? Well, if the path of least resistance isn't available, your brain will automatically find the next easiest path. And the thing is, a lot of us never actually design for what that path might be. So ask yourself, what's one cue in your environment that's working against your goals? And think small. Try to notice little cues that you may barely notice. People say to make a list, but to me, that's already sabotage, because you have to think about, how am I going to make this list? No, just think of one thing. And then ask yourself, what's the simplest way to remove that cue or redesign my environment so that the behavior that I want to do becomes a little bit more automatic? Like if it's the example we said of your phone next to your bed, why is it there? Oh, I need it there because it's my alarm. Yes, well, Walmart sells an old school alarm clock for less than $8, and that's a pretty cheap way to improve all of your mornings. Because if you change that one thing, right, you replace your phone as your alarm with an actual alarm clock, then you interrupt the pattern by removing the trigger. When you wake up, there's no cue telling your brain to scroll. There's no temptation to scroll. You just don't scroll. And just like that, you've broken a bad habit. But conversely, what about good habits that you want to build? Same thing. Design your cue that makes the behavior more automatic, or at least more likely, by removing or reducing friction. So some people sleep in their gym clothes, so there's less resistance to go to the gym in the morning. Some people meal prep, right? You make all your lunches for the week on one day so that eating healthy or saving money on not eating out becomes automatic. There's no thinking involved. The lunch is there, I take it, I heat it, I eat it. And these are the same principles. The cue is automatic, and so the behavior follows. Anytime we can make doing the desired thing more convenient or require less decision-making, that's going to make it much more likely that we start or continue those good habits that then stack together naturally to achieve larger, more ambitious goals. So maybe try it. Try spending less time on motivation, trying to motivate yourself, and more time on just moving or removing one thing from your environment and designing it for positive habits. Okay, here's something else that's real, and science is getting clearer on this every single year. Short form video, like TikTok, Reels, YouTube Shorts, they're basically the same thing. Those swipeable, bite-sized videos that are basically presented in the exact same format on every platform, those kinds of videos literally rewire your brain. And it's because, more than any other form of media, short-form videos use more dopamine exploitation tactics. Exactly the same ones that slot machines use to keep gamblers addicted. But instead of losing money, you're losing time, which is worse. You can't earn more time. And this type of consumption can have effects on everything else in your life, even after you put the phone down. Now, studies show that the average user spends 1.5 to 3 hours per day consuming short-form videos. So imagine that. It's like you're watching 2 movies a day, or a quarter of one Bollywood movie. But even watching one continuous movie per day would be better for your brain dopamine levels because of how it works. In a normal movie, in the span of those 2 hours that you're watching, there's one story developing. There's a character arc, there's a conflict, and then there's a resolution. It's one complete story that you're invested in, and if it's good, then the payoff is quite satisfying. But short form is different because in 2 hours, you could easily view 600 stories, which changes your baseline dopamine level. Your brain gets trained to expect constant stimulation every 6 seconds. Dopamine hit, new thing. Dopamine hit, new thing. And if you've ever done a session of short form consumption that went a little bit too long, you can literally feel your brain kind of doing this dizzy, massively tiring, overstimulated mental vomit because you overdosed on shorts. And externally, we become, or at least we look, just lazy. So you see how dopamine exploitation works, but how does this affect your work, and how does it affect your more ambitious goals? Well, it would be great if we only worked 6 seconds at a time and got a payoff, but obviously it doesn't work that way. When you sit down to do actual work, like something that takes at least 30 minutes, for example, your brain, when it's been dopamine shifted, interprets that as boredom. And being bored feels like failure, so you just get back on your phone. So the uncomfortable question is, have you ever thought of quitting? That's not a very original suggestion, I know, but you might have a more original reason to quit short videos. Not quitting to become more disciplined, not quitting to prove something to yourself, just quitting to reset your dopamine baseline, a functional reset. Think of it like cleansing your palate. You can't taste the nuance of fine wine if you just finished eating candy. You have to reset if you actually want to enjoy it. So the same goes for your attention. If you quit short form video for 2 weeks, like actual quit, not just limiting, then suddenly when you go to work on something for an extended amount of time, it doesn't feel impossible anymore. It feels accomplishable. Now, I still doom scroll sometimes. It happens, and it still makes me sick when I do. But it's more regulated now. I don't feel like I'm addicted anymore. There's a difference. And that difference started when I accepted that short form video was literally changing how my brain functions. Not judging myself for it, just understanding what was happening and taking a small action to correct it, which then benefits my work because I can work longer than 30 minutes without feeling like I'm missing something. And those uninterrupted work sessions get me closer to achieving larger goals. Now, if you do try this for a day and you find it's extremely hard, then that means you may have been addicted to short video without even knowing it. And that's even more reason why you should do it. You need the reset more than you think. Now, here's a weird one, but I can tell you for sure that it works. Go analog. Now, this seems to be trending everywhere right now, like analog everything. And I'm not saying that you have to go that far to replace every digital thing, but do consider going analog just for ideation. When you're thinking of new things or trying to make connections between things, try using a pen and paper. Not because it's more effective in some measurable way, but because it's tactile. It's a different sensory experience than what we're all used to. It's not on the same screen as all the other addicting things that we do. When you sit down with a notebook and a pen, there's no notifications. There's no email tabs open, no ambient dopamine hit from checking your inbox every 30 seconds. You're just thinking on paper with a pen. And if that feels strange, you can actually take it to the next level and pair it with a location change. Not working at your usual working space. Maybe you go to a cafe, maybe you go outside, maybe you go to your car, somewhere new. Just the change of environment plus the change of medium equals a nice mental reset for you. Your brain is literally going to function differently when the sensory input is so different. Now, there's evidence for this because if you interview business owners and novelists and people that are highly successful, you'll find that a lot of times they have this routine that is different from the rest of us. And many times it has to do with location and medium because the environment signals to their brain, we think differently here. We think more in depth. Just as an example, the late great poet and author Maya Angelou would rent a hotel room to write in. Even if she had a house, even if she had the means to rent an office, she made it her habit to write in an empty hotel room with pen and paper. And she would even have the art taken off of the walls just to feel. And that inspired her to work best. Now, I'm not saying you have to do that. I mean, I can't afford to do that. I can afford to go outside, but it's the principle of using analog tools in a new location. When was the last time that you did that? You thought on paper and in a different place. And I'd love to hear if you've tried this or other suggestions in the comments. We can all work toward what works for us individually and as a community, so please leave your experience below. So here's the thing about all of this. Even though I'm personally all about systems and frameworks, you'll notice that I'm not giving you a system in this video. I'm giving you a direction because you need to find what works for you. And the only way to do that is to try something and then see what happens. So I encourage you to pick one of these, just one, and see what happens. Redesign your environment and change your cues. Try the dopamine reset from short form videos for a couple weeks. Grab a notebook and a different location and just think for a while, analog style, see what shifts. The differences may surprise you. So one thing I do want to mention is that there is a hard part when you're trying to change something about yourself, even when those changes are small. And so because it's important for your mindset, and because you've already maybe gotten used to labeling yourself as lazy, or even just being known to others as a lazy person. That's fine, but that's not unchangeable. Change can start now, it can start small, and it can build. But you also have to prepare for failure. You prepare for failure in order to be able to get past like humps of where it becomes more difficult, because you're probably going to try one of these things and it's not going to work. Or you'll try all of them and they'll work for 2 weeks and then stop. And then you'll get frustrated and you'll think, oh, this is stupid, nothing works again. But please remember that that's not you failing. That's not personal. That is just life. You may know the story about Thomas Edison and what it took for him to successfully invent the first working light bulb. By his own records, Edison tried 2,774 times before it worked. And people use that story to talk about persistence and discipline. But to me, discipline usually means that somebody has the ability to do the same hard thing over and over again. But Edison wasn't trying the same thing 2,700 times. He was iterating. He was learning from each failure. He was adjusting and trying a little something different to get it closer to the goal. Now, you're not inventing a light bulb. You're inventing the next version of yourself, your true potential. And that's actually more complex than a light bulb. Now, that's not saying that you have to try 2,000 something different combinations before something sticks, but you might try 10 or 15 or 20. I've only been alive for 4 decades, and I know from experience that you'll find things that work for a season and then don't. And you'll discover obstacles that you didn't know existed. And you'll get frustrated and you'll want to quit. But that's all normal. That's all part of it. The fact that you're still here, that you're still thinking about this and still wondering if you can be better despite being lazy now and then, that counts for more than you know. So when you fail, which you will if you're doing things right, don't let those failures make you give up on yourself or your goals. And speaking of goals, it's important to have them. But if you've been setting goals and not creating systems of habits, then you'll never see progress. So here's how systems, habits, and progress tracking beat setting goals in this video here.